Welcome everyone to the session today. My name is Luke Cayley. I'm the Information Management Lead here at the IFRC in Geneva. I'm calling in for this meeting from the Emergency Operations Center here in the office and HQ in Geneva. So thanks again for joining. As usual, we're providing a briefing on new features and functions. If I could ask people to keep on mute, actually for the first 45 minutes or so, whilst we provide information to you. Please do, though, ask questions in the chat. We'll take those as we go, but then we'll have the 15 minutes at the end, hopefully, to have that discussion. We're recording today just so that you know. I think we're all getting used to that, but please do let us know if you have any objections. Like I say, this is the quarterly briefing for the last quarter of last year. What we'll do for the first section is look at how the data is coming in around the use of Go, both in terms of accessing the different data sets that are on the platform, but also the coverage in terms of how many national societies are involved in contributing and accessing the data on the platform. If I could ask my colleagues, Daniel, would you mind muting whoever needs?
We cannot hear you, Luke.
Somebody muted all. Thanks a lot for that. Once we've looked at the data on the Go platform itself, we'll then turn to some new releases that we worked on in Q4, but also just that we've released as of this week, the operations toolbox, and we'll be joined by operations coordinators who have been working on that. We'll look at the Go blog so that you can find out a little bit more about what we're working on and the background to that and why we're working on it, what kind of challenges we're trying to tackle. We'll hear from the Yemeni Red Crescent. We heard this morning from the Malawi Red Cross, and that was great to hear their use of Go for emergency operation that's ongoing. I think the Yemeni Red Crescent will talk a little bit more broadly about their use of Go for situational awareness. Then we'll look ahead. We'll run through the work plan, all the exciting things that we've got planned for this year. We'll have a demo of both the risk module and the DREF request features that we're about to introduce to the platform. And then we'll tell you about how we're planning to hear a little bit more detail as to what you want from the platform moving forward. Okay, so presumably you know what Go is, but this graphic should help to give a sense of all of the different flows of data that make up the whole thing. So we've got those three elements at the top there. We've got the IFRC systems, network, and external sources. So the systems are, all the structured data that we host here at the Secretariat. So that might be on funding, it might be on who's deploying from which national society, it might be on other data around the deployment of emergency response units and so on. Then the IFRC network data, this comes from national societies providing field reports either in anticipation or in the early stages of an emergency. It can be project reports that come through the 3W. It can be preparedness for preparedness self-assessments through the preparedness for effective response module. All that kind of data which comes through the reporting mechanisms that we put in place. And then, whilst we've always had GDAX alerts, which have helped to flag to the network the impending or the emergencies that are ongoing, we're about to increase the number of external sources that we're bringing into the platform. We'll talk a little bit more detail to that on the risk module demo. And then how we then process that data and make it accessible. Obviously, you've got to the right-hand side of the screen a screenshot of the platform itself, but there's also different ways that we surface things on, and one is through the Go Data API. So this means that if you have a national society has its own system, or you have a dashboard, you can access live data from the platform. And we've got instructions on the user library and some templates and examples and instructions, to follow to see how you do that. And then increasingly, we're bringing some of the key tools for disaster response and preparedness onto the platform in a really kind of accessible way. So we've launched with the Surge team, the catalog of Surge services, and the catalog of preparedness resources is there in the preparedness tab. And we'll talk about the operational toolkit later on today. Okay, so a little bit of data on the last year and the user usage of the platform itself. So this graphic shows you a number of things in quite a condensed way, and I'm going to talk you through a few of the key highlights. Obviously, the way that it's jumping up and down demonstrates that there are fewer users at the weekends, as you'd imagine and probably hope. You can see that there was a real peak in August, mid-August, which was related to the Haiti earthquake response. Again, the most views ever for a single page, a single emergency page, and the quality of the information that was being shared is part of that, as well as obviously a very serious situation that people wanted to keep up to date on. We see a difference in regular usage in the second half of the year, just an increase in terms of overall trend, and that may be partly because of some of the systems that we're connected to. So Molnix, the rapid response management system, that automated connection, which meant that we always had live information about who was deployed where, and some of the more the detail behind that. That came online in early August. And we've had a number of improvements along the way last year, including the introduction of the COVID dashboard, which provides a really useful and analytical tool, which I think people have given us a lot of good feedback and have used that in their regular work. And then some summary statistics. So the number of emergency pages created shows you that the number of emergencies that our national societies are responding to. It's almost 900 last year. Of the 192 national societies, 165 are logging in regularly that we know of. Obviously, there are some that have email domains that we can't see. There might not be an official email domain, so there might be more than 165. And we can see, 180 countries. Our locations where people have logged in to view Go, or sorry, not necessarily logged in. They've actually come to the platform. So we know that it's a global tool. One thing which does makes us paused for thought is the fact that 40 seconds is the median time on each emergency page. So we really need to make sure that the visualizations of data are very clear, because we know that emergency responders have very little time to digest and to use that for their decision making. So it's a reminder to us all to make sure that the data that we present is impactful and clear to people. This video will show field reports as they're coming in from across the globe. So this is just to remind everyone of the value of this global tool for pulling together shared awareness across the network. These red dots are all field reports coming in from across the world. They're telling us what's happening in response to early response to an emergency, or it could be updates related to the COVID response. And so you really see a sense of this global movement that we're all part of, coming together to share information and to have the same kind of situational awareness. Okay, and with that, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Antoine Belair, the operations coordinator, to take us through the operational timeline toolbox. Over to you. I think you're sharing your screen. That's correct, Antoine?
Thank you very much, Luc. Hi, everybody. My name is Antoine Belair. I work within the IFRC team in Geneva as part of the operations coordination. I am covering for Americas and Europe and Central Asia. So I will give you a quick update on the timeline and toolbox. I will just share my screen now with you. Just confirm it if you can see something coming your way, please. There you go. Can you see something?
We're in the dark so far. There it is.
Okay, great. So first, why the operational timeline and toolbox? So this initiative was born out of an identified operational gap highlighted in a number of evaluation, feedback, debriefing from people deployed or hired to manage IFRC operations in support of national societies. What we heard a lot is that there was a lack of written high-level guidance to support operational understanding and sequencing to inform strategic planning, implementation, and reporting. So this is pretty much, in a nutshell, the problem statement or issue, I would say, the ops timeline and the toolbox are aiming at resolving, or at least, I would say, contribute to respond to. So what is it exactly? The toolbox is a central repository where key operational documents have been uploaded for operational leaders in charge of managing IFRC operation, but also for IFRC rapid response personnel deployed in support of a national society. We developed and divided the different areas through 12 actually, it goes from the assessment to logistic to search and HR, finance, and we also included some elements under the areas of other that touches environmental aspects, PSCA, child protection, fraud, and corruption. In the web page that I will show you right after the quick presentation with the PowerPoint, we also included in the web page a reference to preparedness for effective response and links to key web page and resources, as we consider that peer approach and mechanisms can be obviously very useful for operational leaders to, for example, assess the national society capacity, be aware and how to address operational bottlenecks, and how to best contribute to national society capacity strengthening. There's two limitations there. One is regarding to the timeline. So the timeline is 4 months. So we didn't, let's say, cover the full cycle of a response operation, but this is something that we're aiming at looking for the next iteration. We did not include any key documents for the so-called areas of focus in the past, our technical areas for health, WASH, or enabling approaches such as CA. But again, this is something that we would like to be doing as we're moving ahead with the next iteration of the tool. Let me just switch here. Yeah. So the timeline now, in a bit more into detail, is a guide, as I said, for operational leaders in the field that presents operational requirements, or let's say key deliverables, against the first 4 months of the response cycle. It is obviously a tool that can be useful for all colleagues supporting a national society in its response, but also for the national society focal point to understand a little bit what are the key deliverables and processes that we have in place when the IFRC launches an emergency appeal on its behalf. Let's now have a quick look at how the timeline works and how its linkages with the toolbox. So you will see on the left side of the timeline a column called pre-disaster, where all the different areas that I mentioned just earlier are displayed. The first column here includes key tips, suggestions, recommendations to take into considerations in pre-disaster time or when an imminent disaster is about to happen, namely a hurricane, cyclone. Let's say for natural disaster, we can predict a little bit, or slow onset disasters. You will see on the top right here, I think you can see my mouse. You can see on the top right of this column an icon that links automatically to all the relevant documents of the toolbox that relates to the specific area in question. On the right side here of the timeline, you will see some key milestone deliverables or important processes for each of these areas. Each of them are put at a different moment of the timeline, as you can see. The first month is divided between 4 weeks, as we do have indeed a bit more of key elements to be considered at the onset of a response operation. Each of the milestones or deliverable has an icon here linked to it. So by clicking on this icon, you will be directly redirected to the specific documents that relates to it. So for example, by clicking here on the complete operational strategy deliverable, you will be brought to the toolbox where the operational strategy template can be found together with key guidance on how to complete the operational strategy. One key point to highlight here also, some of the elements included relate to processes that are presented in a timeline by a long gray bar. This is also to show that sometimes it's a bit difficult to set a date in stone for that specific action, but this is why we kind of put the long gray bar to make sure that the processes are understood. Let's now have a look at how the different documents are organized within the toolbox. So each area has been divided in sub-areas, if I can say, to cover the different elements, including in each of them. If we take the example, for example, of coordination as an area, different subfolders have been developed, presenting the different elements linked to overall coordination. In this example, we added folders on external coordination, internal secretariat coordination, membership coordination, movement coordination, and shelter cluster coordination. Each of these subfolders are then divided in three main folders: guidelines, template, and examples. So templates to complete the deliverable, the guidelines or guidance to explain a little bit how to better fill it up and complete this deliverable, and the examples are useful documents that we gathered from previous operations, so people consulting the toolbox can have a look at other examples. By clicking on these three folders here, you'll be able to access the key guidelines, as I said, guidance, examples, template that relates to each of these sub-areas. Example of internal coordination, for example. Okay, you could click on internal coordination. I will show it at the end. You will have the GTF guidance, the Joint Task Force guidance, the templates for the minutes of the meetings, and the templates for the agendas. And this goes on and on for each areas and sub-areas that have been developed. One quick point on the job aid coordination here. So we added one folder. We'll be including in this folder all key and relevant material developed through the induction to IFRC operations training, so participants to the training can access the different docs. This folder is empty for now as the training is being finalized as we speak, so we will be moving ahead while we continue and close the preparation of this training and put all the relevant docs in that folder also. In the timeline, there's a couple of icons that brings you directly to some specific websites, because we do have a number of websites where all the necessary tools and resources are available. I'm thinking here of the shelter cluster coordination page, where you have clear description of the role of the cluster, the different terms of references, and key information on the cluster per se. The same for SMCC. I mean, if you click on the SMCC, it will bring you to the SMCC toolkit webpage, where you can get some guidance and examples of movement picture and different tools that have been developed as part of the SMCC. Next steps on the operational timeline and toolbox. So we're presenting today to the different Go platform users. Our objective is then to have deeper discussion with the regional health and DCC colleagues over the next couple of weeks. So to really get into the details of the toolbox, how it works, the timeline per se. We will be also having a pilot or testing phase to be able to collect feedback from users, people we deployed, people that are currently managing operations, key suggestions from them, and recommendations. So we're able to potentially in Q4 this year to revise a little bit the timeline in the toolbox, expand, as I said at the beginning, the timeline to cover the entire cycle of emergency operations, and to potentially, as I mentioned again, integrate key deliverables for technical areas. So what I'll do now, look, is just take a minute or two. I know I only had 10 minutes, but I'll just take 1 second to basically pass through the timeline and toolbox. Can you see, look, the screen?
Yep.
Great, excellent. So this is the timeline per se. It's accessible on Toolbox and under Search. So you have Search and you have the operational toolbox here. As I said at the beginning, we included here some key links to PR. And let's take an example, let's say of I don't know, planning about established the EA funding requirements. So if you click here on the planning icon on the first column, it will bring you to the different guidelines template examples that we have for the planning section. If I go, for example, for launch a DREF, you click launch the DREF, and it will bring you to the DREF template and some key guidance also related to it. And this continues. I mean, I can show another one, for example, for logistics. You have the first column here that brings you to the entire folder for logistics, where you have all the different files that relate to assessment and planning, procurement, quality control, vehicles and fleet management, warehousing. And then if you, for example, want to know a bit more what's a mobilization table, how do you fill it, you click on the mobilization table icon here, brings you directly to the SharePoint, and you have the guidelines to prepare the mobilization table. So this goes on and on for all the different areas that we've been developing. And as I said, the idea is to, it's a work in progress. So this is the first step. The idea is to continue populating, I would say, the different folders with some examples from past operations. If there's any new guidance that needs to be shared, it will be put there automatically. And I believe it's clearly an interesting tool for our people deployed in support of national society. So that's it on my side, Luc. I hope I didn't take too long. Back to you, and happy to be part of the rest of the call if there's any question. Thanks.
Thanks a lot for that, Antoine. Great work, and filling a real gap. As Antoine has mentioned, though, it is, we've just launched it, and so we're keen on getting your feedback. Both Antoine from the Ops Coordination team and Baptiste from the Surge team, their emails are at the bottom of the module itself. So we'll be gathering feedback as you've got it. So please do bring that to us. So I'll start sharing my screen again. And yeah, I was planning to give you just a reminder that we do have this blog, on Medium, where we share, news, videos, more detail on specific elements that we're working on. And so yeah, just looking at it directly now, we just released a blog on the risk module, which gives you more detail behind what Justin is about to talk us through. But there's also other blogs, no more than 10-minute reads each, which describe our approach to operational learning, how we're presenting data to understand the COVID outbreak, pandemic, and other approaches that we've been developing to improve the service that Go provides for the users. So please do, if you want to learn more about our features, see that. And it also will be the place where we post the video of this session, as well as a write-up and all the slides and materials that we're sharing. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Patrick Feary, Head of Planning, Quality and Learning of the Malawian Red Cross Society. Thanks for joining us this morning. Really keen to hear what you have to share with us. Over to you.
Thanks so much, Luke. Greetings all. I'm here to present our experiences in the use of Go platform. So I'm happy to be invited, not only as attendees, but also to share our experiences. Thanks so much. Yes, Malawi is a beautiful country that is located somewhere in Southern Africa, and we border with Mozambique, Zambia, and Tanzania. The rainy season in our country usually starts somewhere around October and ends around April the following year. So for this current rainy season, it started in October last year, and it's expected to end sometime in April this year. Malawi as a country has since December 2021 experienced strong winds and heavy rains, and this has resulted to flooding in most parts of the country, especially in the southern part and also central part of the districts. For your information, Malawi has basically 3 regions: southern region, northern region, and also central region. Sometimes we also even add Eastern region, but geographically, the country has 3 regions: North, Center, and the South. And for the current disaster, it has affected much of the southern region. The tropical storm Anna lashed central districts of Malawi on 24th January this year. And as of 31st January, across 17 districts, there were 32 reported people that were dead, 2 were missing, over 1,000 people were injured, and over 455,000 people have been affected. And this translates to 92,000 households. And you can see the map. It's mostly the lower part, that's the southern part of the country that has been affected. Next slide. Now, what's our experience in using Go platform? 3 disaster updates on Go platform since December 2021. And these include updates on the current response activities by Malawi Red Cross Society, IFRC, and other Red Cross Red Crescent actors and the government of Malawi. Just to mention here that Go platform is a good tool because it captures the disaster event itself. It also captures the magnitude, how many people are affected, how many people are injured, how many are dead, and also it captures what has been done by the national society, what has been done by the participating partners or in-country partners. These are like movement partners. What has been done by IFRC, and also what has the government of Malawi done. The tool captures those updates. Through these updates, IFRC and other Red Cross teams have shared awareness of the unfolding emergency in Malawi, eventually leading to development of a disaster appeal. Go is a user-friendly and easy to navigate tool. We greatly recommend national societies provide disaster situation and response updates on the platform. There's so much happening. There are so many disasters in our countries. But if we are not reporting them on Go platform, it will be very difficult for I4C and other movement partners to take a note. You can also even decide to include outside movement. It's up to you. But for us, we have limited to within the movement partners. Thanks so much.
Thank you for taking time out of, I understand, a very busy period for the Malawi Red Cross Society. Anything you'd like to add in terms of like what we could be doing better, or what you would like to see on the platform, or would you like to leave it there?
Yes, that's a good question. Maybe because I've used it for a number of times, to the point that I've familiarized with the platform. So when you get familiarized with it, everything you find it is good. Yeah. I haven't seen much that needs to change. For now, I'm okay with it. Thanks so much.
Thanks very much for your time this morning, and good luck with the rest of your day. Passing over to a colleague from Yemen Red Crescent, sorry, Majed Al Sabri. Are you with us?
I am Majed Mohammed Al Sabri. I am a Disaster Information Management Officer at Yemen Red Crescent. We have using this the Go platform for 3 years in Yemen, where we have many disasters, for example, cyclones, floods, and epidemics, and we have conflicts in Yemen. After a disaster happened, We will collect the data about the disaster from the YRCS branches. We have 22 branches in the Yemen country, or collect data from the authority or from the media, and submit a situation report on the Go platform. After that, we update the report based on the new data we collect from the field or from the branches. We are using the Go platform for DREF response to disasters or disaster rapid assessment, for example, situation report, field report, or operations updates, or 3W. Next, please. Here we have the Yemen profile on the Go platform. We have all the data of the Yemen profile, the recent emergencies, the 3W projects, the preparedness, or other data. Next, please. Here we have the summary of our work on the Go platform. Now we have one DREF operation on Yemen for facing our response to the floods, which happened in the August month. After we have submit the situation report, if the disaster is bigger than the ability of the Yemen Red Crescent ability to respond or to respond to the disaster, we request the DREF from the IFRC based on our reports in the first hours of the disaster. Next slide, please. Here we have the data about the projects in the Yemen, which is supported by the IFRC and other our partners in Yemen. We can see here in the Yemen map the projects which are active now in all Yemen governorates, in the livelihood and food security and other sections. Next slide, please. Here we have our rapid assessment for the disaster. The recent disaster was the heavy rains which happened in Yemen and led to death and damage of the people houses. Next, please, slide. After the disaster, we have submitted here many reports about the disasters and updates of our operation or our response to the disaster. Next slide, please. Here we have in Yemen Red Crescent built a dashboard about the floods and our response to the floods, which happens in the end of the July, and our response to the mid of the November. This data is reflected on the Go platform. The next slide, please. Here is our response to the disasters, which is supported by the IFRC and our partners in the Red Cross and Red Crescent movement. We submitted this reports to the Go platform, which are listed here in the screen. Next slide, please. Here we can see some image for the disaster which are happened in this year and our response, which is supported by IFRC and our partners to these disasters. And all of this response or information about these disasters are reflected on the Go platform. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us today and for sharing all of the different ways in which you're using the Go platform. It's an honor for us, and also it's very reassuring to see that some of the features that we've been working on, such as the automated mapping, are coming in useful for you, and the way in which your own dashboard can be displayed on the your National Society page. You can build it for different use cases, but Go provides you a place to access it. It's great to hear. We always ask, is there anything you would really like us to work on? Anything that you think would, if it was up to you, you would ask us to prioritize?
The only problem we have here is problem is related to Yemen. We have a weak internet connection. Sometimes we want to upload the situation report, and we can't open the Go platform page on the internet. If we can submit the data by another way, for example, mobile application or another way, after that we can access the report. This is problem is for us.
That's great. Well, it's not great. It's great to hear the feedback, and it's something that we recognize as being a need to make Go more responsive in low bandwidth situations, as we often find that's where we're working. Thanks again.
A light version of the website, because the website is full of infographic and image. It will be difficult to access the website sometimes. This is our
thanks a lot for that. Yeah, a lot of it is because we're pulling on real-time live data, and it's not just a static site, but just reminds us to redouble our efforts on that one. So much appreciated, and thank you again for joining us here today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll come back to talking about some of the future features that we're working on at the moment, and I'll pass directly over to my colleague Justin Giannetti, risk analyst in the team, who's been working on the risk module. Over to you, Justin.
Thanks a lot, Luke. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. First off, I just want to apologize if you hear any loud noise here. There's a fire in my building at the moment, and the sapeurs-pompiers are in my kitchen. So let's give this a try, but I apologize if there's any loud noises. I'm going to spend the next few minutes just taking you on a quick demo of the Go platform's new risk module. And in a nutshell, I'm going to show you what's there, how to use it, and then explain a little bit of what's to come in the coming months, because what we're working on right now is absolutely, as Luke mentioned, a work in progress. It's sort of like version 0.01, and we will continue to be developing it over the coming months and even years in terms of adding new kinds of data, new metrics, and additional features and functionality. Just as a quick reminder to those of you who've been with us, this is a project that began about a year ago with consultations with colleagues in the regions, headquarters, and over 40 national societies. Then we, based on the input we received during those consultations, we developed some prototypes, organized another series of consultations in the summer months, received more feedback, and then went to work developing what I'm about to show you now. So I'm going to turn off my camera and then begin sharing my screen to hopefully help with bandwidth issues. And I'm going to take it that you guys can see the screen. So one of the two scenarios that people were interested in was the following. There's a hazardous event that has either been detected or forecast, and one wants to know what are the likely impacts of it going to be. So here we're looking at the Madagascar page, and then when you hover over the hazard icon, you can see that it's showing the footprint for tropical cyclone Batsirai. This is coming from our partner, the Pacific Disaster Center, who's in turn getting the forecast cyclone track from the Met Service. And then when you click on it, you get your forecasted or your modeled impacts. So you can see there the estimated number of people exposed. This is just in Madagascar alone. Households, people in vulnerable groups, and then you can see the estimated building damage, and then the number of schools and hospitals in the path of the cyclone. This is something that will be connected to our early warning field reports to pre-populate certain fields that correspond in them to be then validated. It's not that those fields remain, but it's just to help facilitate the process for colleagues generating the field reports. We'll be generating, or we'll be visualizing rather, more forecasts from additional partners for the same event. So you're not just looking at one forecasted set of impacts for the event. When there are multiple modeling teams, generating these impacts, you can compare and contrast the outputs from the different teams. We will also be introducing additional hazards than we currently have at present. So right now we have a few hazards in there, but we'll be introducing over the coming year the forecasted impacts of wildfires, and then over the longer term, heat waves, drought, and some epidemiological risks. And this is based on demand or subsequent or pursuant to demand. We will also show next to these modeled impacts, just to the right of them, the return period associated with that order of magnitude of impact. So you can get a sense right away, is this something that's expected to be occurring on an annual basis, 1 in 5 years, 1 in 20 years, 1 in 500 years, etc. And then finally, we will have much more information about the uncertainty and as well the track record for each of the different impact forecasts models whose results are being visualized here on the platform. So you can see over time this particular model that you're looking at has a good skill and high conformity compared to observational data for those same impact indicators, or by contrast, this is one that is not as good. So that's one scenario that we wanted to help you address. The second scenario has to do with risk information by month for more seasonal planning. So here you can see for Mozambique, that you can toggle through the different months, and in a table here you can see some of the basic risk metrics coming from probabilistic risk models, as well as the informed risk index on a monthly basis for a range of different kinds of hazards. And then if you go a little bit further down, what you can see is over the course of the entire year, at a glance, those same kinds of metrics, and you can zero in on, say, one particular kind of risk in particular. Here we're looking at number of people at risk of being food insecure within the country, and then we can see as well the historical values behind the not just behind the average, but in relation to the current prediction. So at the moment, the predicted values of 1.88 million people in food insecurity in the country at the moment is well above the average, but it isn't, say, the record for the country. If you go down still further, you could see risk metrics or impact metrics associated with, again, given return periods in the country. So here we're looking at the risk of people displaced and economic losses due to storm surge, but we have the same for cyclones and wind, as well as for floods, and so forth. And then if you go down all the way to the bottom, you can see what we have in our database for past events. So again, if you're especially interested, if you're looking at an impact forecast forecast, you can put it into historical perspective as well and say, oh, okay, here we have this cyclone that's been detected or forecast. How does it relate in terms of the number of people likely to be affected with historical events for that particular country? And then what were the, how did we respond in the past? And what were the needs? So this is really incipient work. So what's to come for this page? We will be again introducing more hazards, such as those I mentioned above. So heat stress, wildfires, drought, epidemic risks, more impact indicators, additional data on the return periods and different kinds of impacts for return periods. We will have a regional page that allows you to compare the risks across all of the countries in a given region. This is something we're working on in parallel, so we should hopefully have that very soon. We'll also have subnational risk information, so you could look at a map of the risks as they manifest within a given country, down to about admin 2. We will have more functionality, so whenever you see a chart or a map on a page, you'll be able to export it. We will have automated report generation, and we will be introducing the same information and functionality in additional languages, starting with French, once we've done testing, finished the testing for what you're seeing here. And we'll have much more information in the historical crisis, coming from the historical crisis data bank here. So this will be populated with many, many more events going back further into time. Then just to wrap up, so what's next? In the month of February, we will be doing the testing of the risk module. It's just been moved onto our staging server. So we'll spend about almost 4 weeks testing. And then in early March, we will launch it onto the Go platform. And then again, continue developing it and receiving feedback on new features and functionality that colleagues would like to see. When we roll this out, we will support it with a bunch of webinars, online workshops, what have you, so that everyone knows what you're seeing, how to use it, and how to use it responsibly. So if you're interested in either being part of the testing or if you'd like to receive support when we roll this out, I'm going to share a link to this sign-up sheet with you now. And then what will happen is, depending on how you fill in your information, I'll either contact you to be part of the testing or just for the support one, to notify you that we've rolled this out and that we can set up a webinar to do more personalized training with you and your colleagues in your office. So with that, I will pass back to Luke. Thanks very much, and I'll be pasting this link into the chat so you can sign up if you're interested. Thanks very much, Luke. Over to you.
Thanks, Justin. If you can show on your screen, we'll go straight over to Marco Vargas from the DREF team, given limited time. So yeah, thanks again, Justin. It looking great, and yeah, it's been a great journey to get to where we are. We're almost ready to launch, so that's exciting. Talking of that, and almost ready to launch, over to you, Marco.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Perfect. So last call, we already provided a little bit of an introduction to the work that we were doing to move the draft request process from the current template, the famous EPOA, to the Go platform. So this is just a quick update on where we are. So once it's launched in the Go platform, and any national society, any colleague or IFRC colleagues that are supporting the national society can create a new DREF application, either the same way you create a field report, and then as you can see, you will be able to see them in your account. So the idea of this move, one of the reasons, several reasons, one of them is that we wanted to be able to provide the national society something where they can really focus on the information that they need to provide. So the revision of the form we've done in a way that it really asks a specific question. So what is it that we need to know in order to make a decision on that specific allocation? So the form, as you can see it here, is divided in 5 sections. And it provides all the structure. So the National Society can focus on providing that information and not necessarily on the Word document, the structure, and where goes what. So the form has been developed in consultation with the regions. We try to really trim down, make the request as linear as possible. So for example, once you go into elements like support services, which is something that we got a lot of feedback on. And we tried to make sure that we were really asking a specific question. So it was not your usual copy and paste of the National Society Support Services structures, but really questions that will help us to make a decision around that specific allocation. And the other reason why we move into Go is because that allows to have a little bit of feature proven, in the sense that we can have features added to it afterwards. So for example, beyond the form, a couple of features that we have right now is the ability to copy information directly from field reports. So if a national society has developed a strong field report before the decision of requesting funding from the DREF, they can go ahead and just export all the information from the field report directly into their DREF application. So they wouldn't necessarily be starting from scratch. So that's one of the features that we have, the possibility to share the field report with other colleagues through their Go accounts. So the field report, the DREF application, will not be public. It will only be accessible by those that it has been shared with. So as you move in the process of the DREF, when all the way from the National Society to the clusters, country delegations, regional office, all the way to the IFRC HQ, then we can share it with those colleagues and make sure that only those that need to have access to it have access. And then here I have an example on the screen, and the other feature that we have developed, which is almost finalized, is the expert functionality. So again, National Society is really just focusing on providing the information, and then once they're ready, the request has been approved and we need to publish, we can export this request into the PDF. So this is one of the new things that we were not able to show next time. Hopefully it will work now, but then it should give us a PDF version that is ready for publish for the National Society. So again, making sure that we should focus on providing the information, which is what we should be doing at that time. So again, we need to flesh out the PDF, but it's already starting to look pretty good. But beyond that, we will have the opportunity to, in the future, add more features like connected with the risk module, for example, that Justin just showed us, to be able to extract even more information automatically from the different sources that we have available through the different APIs and so on. So this is a quick look into what we have developed since the last time. We're still planning to launch in Q1, so we're wrapping up the request, and then we have to develop quickly the other tools, such as the operational update, the final report, which will also be done in the Go platform. But for now, I'll leave it there. If anyone has any questions, or you want to have more information regarding this revision of the draft request process, you can always reach out. Thanks, Luke.
No, thank you. It's looking really impressive, and yeah, hopefully we'll really lighten the load, not just in terms of the simplification of the process, but also, as you say, connecting to the data that we already have in the Go platform, pre-populating some of those fields either from the field report or from the risk module as that comes online. So exciting stuff. I'm going to share my screen. Bearing in mind time, I'm going to start to talk a little bit quicker. Apologies for that. Okay, so just two elements to come before we get into questions, and please do keep on posting questions in the chat. First is just to let you know that we maintain a work plan every year. We update it on a quarterly basis. You can see very clearly what we're working on right now, when we're planning to work on things over the course of the year. We've talked about the risk and the DREF module, the early action protocol, which is obviously a kind of subset of the DREF module. We've already started work in terms of the design, but that's queued up for when the DREF process is concluded. We're working on some of the requested changes for the 3W for longer term already now, but then in this month we'll kick off more focused work on the 3W for emergencies. So we have a specific module which would work for emergency operations, obviously, bearing in mind the feedback that we got from recent operations, Philippines and Haiti and so on. And one of the things that we did hear is that our IM colleagues need more granularity in terms of geospatial data. So at the moment we're at admin 1 level, which is not granular enough. It's only at like province level. We need to go down to district and further. So we've got a lot of work to do there. There's some new tools coming onto the platform soon. The Emergency Needs Assessment Toolkit in the first half of the year, the Survey Design Tool, which will help you to think through. It's like a wizard, which would help you to think through what kinds of questions to ask in which contexts. We should have that before the end of the year. And then there's a number of improvements to existing things we want to work on, including the preparedness module. At the moment, we're just collecting the National Society self-assessment data. There's a lot more we can do with that really valuable process and data, including, in fact, linking to things like the DREF module and other, surfacing it to inform decisions around emergency appeal launch and so on. And the last piece there before, there's a number of things at the bottom which are more back office things, let's say, is on this rather grandly titled holistic review of the user interface. Now, what does that mean? Essentially, we need, we're 3.5 years since the launch of the platform. It's expanded. It's taken on a lot of different functions. We need to take a step back and really rationalize how we're presenting this information. So to help us do that, we've come up with a concept of a Go study, which our regional office for Europe, IAM focal point, Claudia Jankowska, is going to talk us through now. Over to you, Claudia.
Again, good afternoon, good evening, colleagues. So for those who participated in the previous Go update briefing, the slide might already look a bit familiar. The last time we called it Go consultation process, but as you know, Go itself keeps evolving, so has this concept, and that's why now we are talking about a Go study, so a bit broader exercise. But what is the most important here, the original objectives remains the same. So we want to hear from you, and that means national societies and broader Go users. We want to learn from your experience with Go and make sure that the platform meets your operational needs. We also want to see how and why you use the platform, better understand what else you might need to make better informed decisions. And of course, then on this basis, we want to prioritize future updates and upgrades of the platform. So to us, this process comes as a natural follow-up to basically everything that has been done so far with the Go platform. And even during this call, we've heard that there are many new functionalities being currently discussed, developed, implemented. And we have also heard what the Yemen Red Crescent's experience with the Go platform is. Earlier today, we also heard from Malawi Red Cross. And this is the experience that is extremely valuable for us. And your experience with the current functionalities and your opinion what is in the pipeline, and of course your ideas for the future of Go is something that we would really like to hear. So then we want to compile all these findings into a matrix that would then help us prioritize different aspects of Go's growth. And our priority will be user-centered design. So again, speaking directly with you and listening to how you use the platform, what you would like to see to be able to use it to a certain extent broader. And regional offices will still play a key role in this process, supported by Geneva colleagues, and we'll get in touch with you very soon. But then what exactly will change in this process in comparison with the previous idea? The process will become surely much more comprehensive and holistic. As you can see here, it will be targeting national societies, broader Go users, but also senior management. That means different stakeholders. And because of that, we will also take different approaches and methods, meaning survey, interviews, and usability tests. So not necessarily the focus group discussion that we initially had in mind, but a plethora of different tools to make sure that we can get the best information possible. And also, as you can see here, comparing to the Go survey conducted in 2020, this process will have more steps, will engage more stakeholders, and well, it's starting now. So we hope that you're as excited as we are, because you will hear from us very soon. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Claudia. Very precise and concise as ever. Okay, so that's the end of the presentation. We promised some time for questions and answers. We're hoping for more, but there's so much that we want to share with you. But we have 5 minutes, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen and check if there are any. Then I guess, Justin, if you'd like to expand on the answer that you've given Colin.
Concerning the population data,
Exactly.
yes. So I think the way I'd like to answer that is by just underscoring a point made earlier, which is to say that at IFRC, our role is to curate other models So we're not doing any modeling ourselves, and we can't prescribe exactly what inputs our partners should be using for their models. Of course, we can recommend them. They can come to us for advice, and we can give advice, but we're not the boss really of anybody other than ourselves. So what we ask of our partners is that they document how they're parameterizing their models, what source data they're using for their models, and then basically making that available to our users so that anyone who cares to look into that and know what they're getting can do so with absolute maximum transparency, because that's really the only way that we think that you'll build confidence, and that you'll have confidence in what you're seeing, is if you really know what's in the sausage, so to speak. So I know that some of our partners use the HRSL. So PDC provides impact forecasting models, and they use the HRSL. Others like WFP in their earthquake and cyclone and flood forecasting mostly use the global human settlement layer, as does Oxford. I can't remember off the top of my head what the team from 510 is using for their typhoon impact forecasting model for the Philippines. I can look that up. But anyway, there's a number of kind of sort of standard population density sources that our colleagues and our partners are using, we just make sure that they document it. Thanks.
Great. Great question, and great little dive into the geeky world of human settlement layers. Okay, so if there's no other questions, I think we'll close there.